All right, what's up, guys? We're gonna go over why grow plants, right? One of the big things that people tend to want to shy away from is growing that beautiful orchid that you see at the store. One of the things that hinder people from growing these things is not knowing enough to grow said plant, right? One of the big things that you want to look at is the actual genus of what that plant is, and then what is the light requirements for that plant. All right, a lot of people, what they do is they tend to place plants onto the windowsill, hoping that it'll grow, not knowing that whether the plant takes full sunlight or if it takes partial sunlight, or if it does fine growing in the shade. All right, one of the big things is kind of deciphering how to correlate what is viewed growing outside, whether if it grows in full sun, and then correlate that to growing indoors. All right, if it's a plant that grows full sun outside, it's really hard to mimic those conditions inside unless you do have it on the windowsill. But there are days when it's cloudy outside, adverse weather, and it doesn't give that plant what it needs in terms of full sunlight. So what you have to do is supplement them with some artificial light. As you can see back behind me, I have artificial light. And what this does is it provides the means for the plant to photosynthesize either 12 hours a day or 8 hours a day, whatever you have it set to. Mind you, you have to get a smart plug. Some way you can program it to turn on at a certain time of the day and then turn off at the end of the day. All right, and what it does, it creates that rhythm mimicking what is outside, when the sun rises and then when the sun sets, those conditions, so it can thrive. All right, so if you're into plants and you're looking to grow whatever plant that you need to understand how to mimic those conditions outside but indoors. Second thing is water, right? You want to know how much water, or not how much, because you can never overwater a plant. My wife tells me all the time, you can never overwater a plant, but you can't underwater a plant. But the thing is, you want to know what the frequency is that plant likes to take in water. All right, some plants, or I would say most plants, like a period where it can dry out just a little bit and then you water it again. What it does is that when the soil dries out, it supplies that soil with air. Plants don't necessarily grow with water 24/7 all over the roots, right? They need that period for it to breathe in a way. So you have to give the soil a chance for it to dry out. Maybe not completely, unless you have a cactus, but you need to have a period where it can dry out. You can give that soil some oxygen, and then go ahead and douse that plant with some water. Now, what I like to do in terms of deciding how much or how frequent I water a plant, right? I want to take into account what is my soil's condition, right? Is it soil that tends to hold in a lot of moisture or the water, or is it a soil that's very loose? And so then when I water it, the water just drains right out the pot, and you'll see most of this if you have soil that tends to have big chunks of wood chips, rocks, or any other type of substrate that's very large, so to speak. So if you have a soil that allows water to run freely down, it doesn't really waterlog up at the top, then that's good. What that does is it allows you to water the plant, and the plant will take in that water in that short period of time, right? And as you let that soil dry out, you water it again. Now, the frequency at which you water this will probably be once every 3 days or every 4 days, depending on the type of plant you have. But some plants enjoy this and they actually thrive off of this. I think for an example, I have this carnivorous plant. What this does, you can see it here. All right, so what this does, what the moss does at the top, right, it allows that plant to hold on to moisture more, or actually it allows the plant to hold on to moisture longer within that substrate. All right, this is good for carnivorous plants because they like being in consistently moist substrate. All right, but it's not the same for every other plant. Most plants that I have outside, my carnivorous plants, they have to sit in water. All right, it's because the type of environment that they grow in is a very bog, marshy type environment, and so they constantly sit in water. There are periods where it do dry out, but you don't necessarily want it to dry out. All right, but I know out in the wild, there might be times where it's a very hot day, water does evaporate faster outside, so there may be a period where there is no water in the tray, but you most certainly can allow your plants to have a spell of having no water in it, in particular for carnivorous plants, for a day. All right, it's not going to kill them, but make sure that you top that off. But going back to what is needed, right? So we went over the type of lighting, all right, and then we went over the frequency of watering, all right, and then now we're going to go into the type of soil. All right, there are many varieties of different soils that you can play around with. Make sure that you do your research and look up what the type of substrate that you're using is known for, such as coconut fiber. Coconut fiber is very fine, but what it does is it holds on to water a lot. But the thing is that when it dries out, it accepts that new water coming in more easier. All right. Another type of substrate is sphagnum moss. Again, this is a type of substrate that you can utilize to grow your plants. Not all plants thrive in sphagnum moss, but you can use that to grow your plants. But what it does, it also retains moisture. Let's say you look up a plant. You say, I would like to grow a monstera. Monstera or a monstera. All right, a monstera likes soil that's very loose, chunky in a way. So when you water it, the water shouldn't pool up at the top, but it should drain pretty fast within a second or two. That lets you know that it's very good type of soil for it. Not all monsteras would do fine in loose substrate, but it's very good to utilize. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to look up different types of material that allows for loose substrate. So you have perlite, you have leca, you have wood chips. What's another one? You have pond, but you really want to go with, I would say, maybe a leca wood chip, let's say with some perlite in it. I would go with that. What this does is because the monstera's roots are so large that if you do have a material or substrate that it has like a grainy, fine soil mix, it holds on to moisture a lot, it's not really going to thrive in that. A monstera, what the roots are, they are very large, very thick, and so because of the type of plant, it grows up on trees where it's very aerated up there, minimal soil contact, but if it does, it's not very, it wouldn't be like detrimental to the plant. So you want to mimic that inside of the pot that is growing. Another thing that you want to do when growing a plant in a loose type of soil, some plants like moss poles. All right, doesn't necessarily have to have moss in it, so to speak, for the name, but it is a type of fixture or attachment that you're going to attach to the pot to allow the plant to attach roots inside of that. And what this does is it mimics as if it's growing horizontally along the ground, but it's growing vertically. because we like to see things symmetrical in a way. So you're not going to have a monstera growing sideways along a long pot. You want it vertical, so that's what the moss pole really does. But out in its natural environment, you'll find that they grow quite often horizontally along the ground, and if they grow up against a tree, they will then grow up along the tree, utilizing those roots to attach to the tree. And when it rains, the water drips down the tree, waters the roots, and so forth. So if you really want to mimic the environment that it grows in, look up YouTube videos, go on Google, look up photos of where it grows naturally, and try to mimic that. Another thing is heat. It's not really talked about a lot. I don't really tend to pay attention too much about the temperature that plants thrive in and trying to adjust that, just because it's like a small characteristic that allows plants to grow amazingly. All right, so temperature. If you take a plant that's growing indoors, let's say indoors, your average temp indoors is like 75 degrees, maybe 73, all right? And you take it outside, and it's summertime, the plant will die, all right? I'm not saying that it'll die within a day, but due to that change of temperature that plant was growing in, let's say it's, like I said, it's like 73 degrees, 74 on average, all right? And you take it outside and it's like 90 degrees, 85, that plant will show signs that it's not gonna make it. That being, even if it's no direct sunlight on it, just the temperature change, that drastic change, could be enough to send that plant in a downward spiral. All right, but don't fret. If you see that within a day, I will take it inside. You see yellowing, I probably would take it inside, but what it does is you have to acclimate a plant to withstand that type of change. All right, so if you take it outside for maybe 2 hours a day, bring it back inside, take it back outside the next day, over the course of a week or two, mind you, you're putting the plant outside, but it's in the shade. It'll allow that time for that plant to acclimate. But I can talk about that another time. I don't want to make this video too long, but these are the basics of growing your plant. Research, right? Look up the lighting requirements. Look up how often should you water the plant, and then try to match the type of soil that is needed to grow that plant. All right? You have your moisture retaining soils. You have your soils that allow water to run through freely, and then you can also pick and choose, make a custom mix, a plant that likes a little bit of moisture to be retained, but is also loose in a point that allows water to run through freely. All right, so again, that wraps it up for today. I'll talk more on maybe mismatching different types of soil together so you can have that perfect substrate to allow for your plant. And until next time, all right, see you.